So when you are given two sides and an angle, you need to see if you can use the law of sine first, which we're going to do next. But in all of the cases for this homework tonight, you're going to have to use the law of cosine because you cannot do a law of sine. And remember with the law of sine, you needed a full fraction, so you needed big A and little a, or big B and little b, or big C and little c. So as soon as you get that for this one, you can do the rest, okay? So here I have little a, little b, and big C. There's only one capital letter in each of those formulas. You see it? So you have to use the one with the big C, because that's the one big letter you have. So I have that c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of c. And I'm going to plug in the values. C squared equals 12 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 12 times 7 times cosine of 80. Okay, so these are the easy ones because it has all of this information. You don't have any unknowns here. So you're going to plug that all into your calculator exactly as you see it and check and make sure you didn't make any mistakes before you hit enter. So we get 163.83, but that's not C, that's C squared. So what do we have to do? So now we have that little a is 12. We have that little b is 7, and I'm putting them in the wrong place. Little a is 12, little b is 7, little c is 12.8, and we have that big C is 80. That's all we know, right? Now I can switch over to law of sine because I have a full fraction. Do you see where I have the little c and the big C? You can continue to use the law of cosine, but it's easier if you switch over at this point, okay? So when I switch over, I have that sine, let me change color here, sine of big A over 12 equals sine of big B over 7 equals sine of 80 over 12.8. You've done that already, so let's find big B. We multiply 7 times sine of 80 equals 12.8 sine of big B. You divide by 12.8 and we get, so that gives us a decimal, and that equals sine of big B. But to find big B, you find the second button,
32.69,
second sign of that decimal. And we get what? Second sign of second answer? 32.59. Do two places. 32.59 is big B. So can we find big A without doing much of anything?
You don't even have, you just have to add the two together.
You just say take 180 minus 80 minus 32.59 and you get 67.41. That was number 1, and now we're going to do number 5 from your homework. In this problem, they have just the 3 sides they're giving us. So I just draw a basic non-right triangle, and I put big A, big B, big C on it. I draw all mine the same, and then I just put the information on it. So little a would be over here, and that would be 8. Little b would be over here, and that would be 6. And little c would be over here, and that would be 9. So we have the 3 sides, and we don't have any of the angles. Well, every one of the formulas that I gave you earlier have all 3 sides on it. So we can find A, B, and C in that order. We can find big A, big B, and then big C, okay? So we've got big A, big B, big C. Don't have none of those. Little a is 8, little b is 6, and little c is 9. There's part of my answer. All right, so I'm going to find big A first. The one with the big A is a squared plus a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of big A. And I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that 8 squared equals 6 squared plus 9 squared minus 2 times 6 times 9 times cosine of A. Everybody understand what I did? I want you now to underline this because those have to stay together and you have to move the other things out of the way. So when that happens, I've got 8 squared minus 6 squared minus 9 squared equals negative 108 cosine of big A. I combine these three things and leave them on the right of the equation and move these things to the other side of the equation. Everybody get that?
Yep.
And now I put in my calculator the left side, which is 64 minus 36 minus 81, which is negative 53, equals negative 108 cosine of big A. Now, who's with the cosine of big A? Negative 108. Now you can divide, and I get negative 53 divided by negative 108, and I get that ugly decimal, and then I hit second cosine of second answer, and I get 60.61 degrees.
Second cosine of second answer.
Now, we know big A, and we also know little a. So now I can switch over the law of sine. Sine of 60.61 over 8 equals sine of big B over 6. Everybody see what I'm doing? And now we multiply 6 sine of 60.61 equals 8 sine of B. We're going to divide by 8. And then we're going to do second sine of that answer to get big B, because when we're looking for an angle, we have to use the second button. So now once we find big B is, with the law of sine, is 40.80 degrees, we can subtract 40.80 and 60.61 from 180 and get 78.59. Now I want you to do one more check to make sure you're not making a mistake. If little a is the middle angle, middle side, then 60.61 should be the angle in the middle. If little b is the smallest side, it should be across from the smallest angle. And little c is the biggest side, should be across from the biggest angle. So that makes logical sense. So if I were to be given this problem here where big A is 40, little a is 20, so we have 40 here and 20. And then we have big C here is 70. What rule would I use to solve this one? Would I use cosine or law of sine? Since you have little a and big A here, you have a full fraction, you can use law of sine. You actually can't use law of cosine, because you have two angles in one side, and the two angles, you need one angle and two sides in order to do it, or three sides. You understand that? So tomorrow you're going to get a sheet of paper that says determine which way to do it, and then do it.
Okay.
And it won't be that many problems, okay? Cannot use the law of cosine for this one either, because I know I can get that third angle, and it's 70. Because 70 and 70 is 140 plus 40 is 180. Now I have a complete fraction. So there's some that are going to be tricky. Don't get tricked. If you can't use the law of cosine, you have to be able to use the law of sine. You have to use one or the other. Okay?